What if I told you about a man who could eat his own weight in food, swallow a whole live eel, and eat an entire meal intended for 15 people in one sitting? Meet Tarrare, the most disgusting glutton in history. Tarrare was a man unlike any other. He was born in rural France in the late 1700s. From an early age, it was clear that he was different than any of his friends. Tarrare was always hungry, constantly searching for any food that he could find to fill the bottomless pit that was his stomach. As he grew older, his appetite only intensified until it became an insatiable obsession that consumed his every waking moment. Despite his ferocious appetite, Tarrare was a thin, gaunt figure with sunken eyes and a pale complexion. His hunger was so great that he would eat anything he could get his hands on, regardless of whether it was edible or not. He would happily devour live animals, stones, and garbage, and even the furniture in his parents' home. Tarrare's parents could barely afford to feed him, and he was eventually kicked out of his own home at the age of 17 for stealing from his family to supply his endless appetite. From there, Tarrare became a wandering beggar, surviving by eating whatever scraps he could find. But it wasn't long before he caught the attention of a traveling showman who recognized the potential for profit in Tarrare's bizarre condition. The showman took Tarrare on as a sideshow attraction, billing him as the man with the insatiable appetite. At first, Tarrare was thrilled by the attention and the steady supply of food that came with the gig, but as time went on, he grew increasingly desperate for more and more sustenance. He would eat entire baskets of apples in one sitting, swallow live eels whole, and even consume his own excrement in an attempt to satisfy his hunger. Despite the grotesque nature of his condition, Tarrare became something of a celebrity in the world of show business. He toured throughout France and England, performing for crowds of curious onlookers who were both fascinated and repulsed by his insatiable appetite. But as Tarrare's fame grew, so did his desperation. One night, in a fit of hunger-fueled madness, Tarrare snuck into a local hospital and devoured the corpse of a recently deceased patient. This disgusting act earned him the attention of a local surgeon who was intrigued by Tarrare's unique physiology. The surgeon began to experiment on Tarrare, testing his ability to swallow objects of increasing size, but the experiments only made Tarrare's condition worse. His stomach stretched to an enormous size, and he began to suffer from constant abdominal pains. His breath became foul and putrid, and his skin took on a sickly yellow color. He was no longer able to eat normal food and was forced to resort to even more extreme measures to satisfy his hunger. One night, Tarrare was caught in the act of devouring a live cat. He was chased out of town by a mob of angry villagers and was forced to flee into the wilderness. There, he lived as a hermit, surviving by eating whatever animals he could catch. But eventually, even that wasn't enough to sustain him. Tarrare died alone in the woods, his body emaciated and ravaged by disease. But his legacy lived on in the countless stories and legends that sprang up around his bizarre and unsettling life. Tarrare is remembered as a cautionary tale about the dangers of obsession. His insatiable appetite led him down a dark path, one that ultimately led to his death.